Check one, two, three. Hey everybody, it's Michael Helms, also known as Michael the Sound Guy, and this is the Location Sound Podcast. You know, each episode we talk with location sound mixers, boom ops, and other industry pros about the various aspects of recording sound on location, whether it's for feature and independent films, TV commercials, interviews, any time where dialogue from actors is recorded. I started my career in the recording studios in New York City with some of the big artists back in the day, and later on projects for networks like HBO, Sci-Fi Channel, and the Cartoon Network. As time went by, I got out of the studio and began working in production sound. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, thanks for joining us. Okay, my guest today does location sound for film and television. He's currently based out of Copenhagen, Denmark, but previously lived in South Africa. Please welcome Byron Meyer.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Now, as we mentioned, you grew up in South Africa, but you've recently relocated to Denmark. So kind of tell us what that experience was like.
Correct. I'm originally South African, born there. My parents are also from there. Grandparents are from there. A couple of years ago, in 2010, I started working for a company. Very soon out of film school, I landed up in outside broadcasting for a company called AlphaCam. And I ended up getting a job at their head office in Belgium. So I went to live there for a year or so. Eventually got sent on a job to Denmark with UEFA football and did a job there, but actually met a girl, you know, these things happen. And long story short, I ended up living a little bit in Denmark again in 2015 for about a year. And then we decided we'll go back to South Africa. And I just kind of started specializing in location sound. I had a big skill set kind of developing with the broadcasting, learning about uplinks and doing, big sound setups and stuff for TV mostly and studio stuff. But I studied film, and actually that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to do more single cam, long form stuff. In 2015, when we moved back, that's when I decided I'm just going to push full on into location sound, and I've been doing it ever since. Ended up that about 2017, I did a Danish series, and now it's like 3-4 years later, and now we live here, and I'm working in the film industry here with my wife. She's also actually in the film industry. She does makeup. So yeah, that's a very long story short.
Well, what were some of the challenges of kind of getting established after having started your career in South Africa?
I kind of feel like it was really just picking up in South Africa. It was going very well. I was starting to do a bunch of stuff for Netflix, some international clients for the Netherlands and things like that. At some point, we just decided that, she started getting work here, actually, job offers in Denmark. And her first job was in Norway on Ragnarok. That's on Netflix right now, I think. And season 2 is coming up. So she was offered some more work. And I thought, well, we always spoke about, trying to be sometimes here working, sometimes in South Africa, depending on the work, following the jobs, basically. Yeah, I think about a year and a half ago, we decided we're going to come up, and we lived in Sweden actually for a couple of months first. And then we made the move over to Copenhagen. That was basically just trying to get over the red tape, firstly, because, I've got a South African passport and my wife has a European passport, so no problem on her side. But I had to jump through some loops first and get myself legit this side so that I'm able to work as well.
Mm. Were there any language barriers you had to deal with?
Yeah, definitely. Luckily, everybody is quite multilingual. Everyone does speak English out here. But in terms of sound, lucky for me, we've been together for about 10 years now. And slowly but surely, I've developed my Danish skills, and I've learned Danish, and I've got it at a very workable level. It's not totally fluent. You can still tell that I'm a foreigner when I talk Danish. But every time I speak Danish with the Danes, luckily I'm quite a language guy. I speak 5 languages. I have an ear for it, as I would say, like for the language. And they're impressed. Every time I talk to them, they ask, how long have you been here again? And I'm like, just about a year or so. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. They know people that have been here for 10 years that don't speak any Danish. So it is a tough language, but it's a fun language, especially from Afrikaans. There's a lot of similarities, sort of, kind of. So yeah, I've just been bridging that gap, trying to learn the Danish, watching lots of Danish film. Yeah, just go for it. That's basically it. Just try and learn the language.
How was your first year kind of working under these COVID restrictions? How did that go?
Well, They did shut everything down here for quite a while. It actually was a bit of a double whammy. It happened just after I arrived. So nobody predicted that, obviously. But so that was a bit more tough, I think, getting into the industry. And it's only sort of happening now in like the last 6 months or so that I've been starting getting work and more constant bookings and stuff for series and feature films, commercials. It's all starting to come in now. As things slowly loosen up, I think the restrictions has kind of a little bit let go on the film and TV industry. There was about 2 or 3 months where they just shut everything down completely. But now it's a bit better. We get to go to set. Yeah, it's been a bit challenging. I mean, we just had to ride it out. Just moved in, found a place here. We bought an apartment and just tried to get into the industry. Keep calling, keep going. As soon as things opened up, I started landing bookings almost instantly. So that helped a lot. The demand is pretty big up here, and they're growing fast. The government's also putting a lot of stuff and a lot of like film initiatives to kind of get the arts back on its feet again. So that helps. Yeah, it's getting better at least.
All right. Let's talk about what's in your audio bag. So kind of just give us a rundown of all your gear.
Right now, I'm on 6 series sound devices still. I've been hoping to go on to the 8 series, but I still see a lot of glitches here and there. So I'm waiting for things to stable out and then I'll upgrade. But right now I'm on 6 series sound device and I use Wisycom wireless and I use DPA mics. I use DPA on the lavs 4060s, 4017B on the boom, and micro boom the 4097 for plant miking and stuff mostly. But I'm a DPA fanboy. That kind of hit me in 2017 when I did the first time I actually used DPA was with Liberty in 2017. It's a Danish miniseries that came to film in South Africa. And that's actually an interesting story how I landed that job. And kind of it's like my top thing on my resume that I get to tell people, yeah, I did that in South Africa. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. Then they're quite accepting. Then they say, okay, that was a very good series. And the Danes loved it. So luckily I had my name tied to that. But actually I gate crashed my wife's interview because she got an interview to go do makeup with the HOD on makeup side. And I just tagged along and asked production, hey, who's the sound guy? And they said, no, he's sitting outside having a smoke, the Danish guy. And I went out, introduced myself, spoke my best broken Danish to him, and told him, I want to be your assistant. I want to boom swing for you. And I asked him, do you guys have someone yet? And he was like, well, I think they have someone shortlisted already from Cape Town, and it was being filmed in Joburg. And I was like, well, I'm right here, right now. And I speak some Danish, and he was like, 100%. I think let's go for it. Let's go tell production that you're the guy. So I kind of swindled my way into that one.
That's nice. So well, let's talk a little bit about Liberty. So tell us a little bit about the project.
It's Zentropa Productions in Stage 5. Productions was a local one in South Africa that there was co-producing. It was directed by Michael, I'm going to ruin his surname, Marcyman. Michael Marcyman, a Swedish director. It's a bit of a period piece, and it plays off in, actually, I think it's Tanzania. And we filmed South Africa for Tanzania. It's just about Scandinavian people living and working in Africa, starting up companies and like sawmills, for instance, and a lot of underlying things and drama going on. It was a really demanding set, to be honest. We were up and down everywhere, and we had really tight schedule, and some of the locations were really tough. Like in Africa, some of the locations can be dangerous. Let's put it that way. It is some of it can be a bit dodgy spots we're filming at, but it was really a great experience. And I got to, for the first time, kind of use. Before that, I mean, we were on the 416 boom mics and stuff, and I'd never used Wisycoms. We were mostly using Electrosonics or Sennheiser and stuff. So first time that I used Wisycom or DPA was about 4 years ago, 2017. And that just kind of made me feel, as soon as I worked with that kind of gear, I was like, whoa, I really want to invest more in my gear and grow it and use top tier equipment, because it does make a big difference to what you can achieve on set. So then I just started back then, basically really throwing myself into growing my own kit. And yeah, today I'm pretty happy with what I have. It never stops, obviously. It never ever stops. There's always something you want.
Yes. Well, what do you like to use for timecode sync?
I use Tentacle Syncs. I really like Tentacle Sync. I have four of them. But one of the stuff I've been using other jobs here, when the guys book me maybe on their equipment, then I use Betso. And I really like the Betsos, actually. They're really growing on me a little more. I think I might, at some point, that'll be the upgrade to go to Betsos. Yeah, they work really well. But there's nothing wrong with the Tentacle Sync. I love that I got the app and I can control and everything all from my bag and just see what timecode is doing what. It's great.
Okay. What bag do you like to use?
I got K-tek Stingray. At the moment, I've got the medium one. I think they stopped making that size, actually. I've had some guys offer to buy it from me on some forums and stuff, but I'm not letting go. I love it.
All right. Now talking a little bit again about Liberty, you were primarily boom op on that?
First block, I was boom up. And then second block, Casper, who was the local boom guy from Denmark, actually, he got another job or something coming up, or I don't know what it was exactly that he had to leave. He just said, like, we're going to make it that you take over from me. And that was kind of my big break into the Danish market, I would say. And the producers and the director, and they all spoke and they all liked me. And, they got to know me on set. And I think it was a better handover. I think the Scandinavians they like working with people they know and they see the face and they get comfortable with. They don't necessarily want more experience or something. They just want someone that they're comfortable with, they can do the work. And so it was pretty cozy that they just said, hey, we want you to take over. And it was a big opportunity. So I obviously took it, grabbed it with both hands, did my best job. And today still, I've done some very good stuff since then that I'm pretty proud of, but that's just something that sticks with me, that I was like, wow, that really felt like my big break into being able to come to Europe and do movies and stuff, and have something to my name that people can trust me with and say, yeah, that they've all seen that and they loved it and the sound came out really, really good. So I was happy.
That's great. Yeah. Now, how many wireless were you running at the time?
12. We had 12 channels. I was on a 688 with 12 channels of Wisycom. It was all DPA stuff. Actually, since then, that's the bag I've built for myself. I've just gone ahead and you got the 6 series, got the Wisycoms. I've got the new MCR 54, the quad receivers. I haven't had any issues with them, by the way. I have read some people having some problems, but I think after the updates, I haven't had any problems. And I'm really enjoying it. It made my bag so much compact. It almost feels like something's missing in the bag every time I look at it, because I've got 8 channels of it right now. And it looks great.
Okay. But the receivers, you said they're 4 channels?
It's a quad receiver, the MCR 54 from Wisycom.
Yeah, we're supposed to talk with one of the reps for Wisycom, so I'm looking forward to learning more about it. I'd love to try them out. I have not tried them out. I've been using Electrosonics.
I like Electrosonics a lot, don't get me wrong. Actually, the sales guys from Nordic Pro Audio, Alan Holmberg, he kind of smeared them onto me a little because I really liked the Wisycoms. And then I did some more work again for like 3 years after that using Electrosonics and things. And I just went and I asked for a quote one day because I wanted to buy some wireless. And I asked for Electrosonics and he said, come on in, I want to show you something. And I spoke a bit about, it's either you like it or you don't, I guess. Some guys are diehard Electrosonics, some guys are diehard Wisycom. And I always tell people it's like the Electrosonics is like the AR-15 of wireless. It's the American version. And then you got the European stuff here, the FN FAL kind of is the Wisycom. So that's just how it is. Most of the guys here use Wisycom on the European side. I would say it's at least 70-30, probably 30-40% is Electrosonics, but the majority is Wisycom. So I also just wanted to get something that I can put on my gear list that's familiar for production. When they see it, they know those brands.
I noticed, when you boot up, the letters and the words seemed really small. And I was like, am I going to be able to see that?
That is true. But then again, on the Electrosonics, I think the newer stuff is going to be better. I've worked a little bit with the new digital systems, and that's really nice. I think at the end of the day, I think having both is good and not just having one of the other. I would have liked to go audio limited, but I've never really worked with audio limited. And I have heard some people having some RF issues and things like that. I don't know if that's all fixed up, but at the end of the day, I got a good deal from Nordic Pro, and they're the agent over here, and getting Electrosonics is a little bit more tricky, or getting if something breaks or whatever, it takes time to get a new unit. They can't just give me a loan unit or whatever. Here, if a Wisycom goes, they have stuff on the shelf, they can just replace it while they fix something or sort me out right away. So that at the end of the day, that's actually what was my deciding factor, is that I have really good back service on that product.
All right, let's see here. So you also worked on a feature film. Is it Tourbus?
Tourbus. Yeah, I would try, if I had to translate that, that's Afrikaans word. It's probably means magic bush, like magic forest, whatever it is. That's a Deleen Matthias story. She's a very, very well-known South African writer. She's written quite a few novels and stuff. And I've actually made, I think, 3 of her films. Ragokie de Beer is the one, Tourbos, and Villa se Kind. They all did really well. Really, really good. But Tourbos is the official entry to the Oscars this year from South Africa. So that's something to be proud of. That was a tricky one as well. I won't lie. Some of the sets in South Africa is, I think, sometimes because of budget constraints and things like that. We normally work with smaller teams, and we're deep in far away locations. So you have to really be able to rely on your stuff and make it work. So,
all right. Now, what was your role in that project?
I was HOD sound, the production mixer on that.
Okay. Back to how many wireless were you running simultaneously? What was that one?
There I used 8 channels wireless. I used the DPAs, and the budget at that point wasn't actually that big. And I didn't have all the Wisycoms at that stage. So I rented in some stuff. I used some Letros and I used some Sennheiser old G3 still. But it was really good. We maxed out what we had, basically. We really pushed all the gear to its limit out there. Sometimes really on the edge of just what the range can do, and running with the bag and kind of being in between VT Village and your inputs. So it was a tough one, and the weather wasn't exactly on our side. It was wet all the time, so keeping stuff dry was a problem, like in the rainforest. But the gear took it. Sound gear, if it's quality, it should be able to get rained on, and you shouldn't be thinking about it too much. It was a fun shoot, and actually, it was so tough that I kind of, some days, how it is when there's like lots of wind machines and stuff, and then I always kind of had to fight for the sound a little bit. You know how it goes when there's stress and time. You kind of have to convince them and say, look, I know you want to fix it in post, but let me give you something so that you can fix it in post. So that was great. Luckily, the director was quite into sound, and she was totally fine with me redoing stuff. Like, she will shoot a whole scene, and if there was lots of wind machines going on, because it's about this girl that lives in a forest, and she's super in tune with the forest and nature, and everything is alive around her, and the trees always have to be moving. So that was really challenging for sound. But I re-recorded everything, and actually, I think the dialogue editors did a pretty damn good job on that one, getting everything in.
Oh, nice. Now, what were some expendables that you used to kind of keep your gear clean and dry?
A lot of backpack covers, these waterproof backpack covers that you buy to cover your hiking bag or whatever. I had a whole bunch of those, and my boomie would have one clipped to his belt, and whenever we cut, he would wrap his boom up in that and cling wrap everything, like all the transmitters and stuff, cling wrap that up. The mics, I risked it. I guess a lot of guys will say, no, I'm not going to put mics on in the rain machines and stuff. But I wanted to have it there because I knew it was going to be quite an ADR heavy movie because of the noise on set. But I really wanted to give them good reference sound. And I think that's kind of what saved production's butt in the end of the day, is that there was really good reference sound. I actually got a really nice comment from post-production, writing back to the producers that they sent on to me again, saying they don't even know this young guy and he's doing such a good job. And, the stuff that I recorded has actually given them some ideas to go with something or try something out. And that feels good. Normally no news is good news, but good news is really great news. So yeah, that was nice.
All right, let's see here. So you also worked on a comedy from South Africa called, was it Thys and Tricks?
Thys and Tricks. Oh yeah, that was a funny one, really fun one, with Bouwer Bosch. That one was shot in, I think was it the Eastern Cape? It all blurs into one long job, when you think back a few years. But yeah, a lot of stuff on the coastlines. Also a bit noisy at some places. You know how it goes. Production says, yeah, it's out of the middle of nowhere, and you get there and they're busy with a construction site next to it. It's like, oh, great. Well, they changed location last minute and nobody thought about inviting the sound guy or something. But made it work. It actually came out really good. A lot of compliments on that one too. People after the movie, I remember even the lighting guys were calling me saying, hey man, you really did a great job on the sound. And that's like the only time ever a lighting guy would tell me sound was really good. So yeah, that was a fun one. That was one of the fun ones actually, yeah.
All right. And what role were you on that?
Production mixer. I've been doing mostly production mixing. I think boom swinging is something that have done before, but I've been mixing most of the time. And now that I've come here to Denmark to kind of get my foot in the door, and it's a little bit scene different here. They call it A tournemestre and a B tournemestre. And that'll mean that you basically have two mixers, but they kind of switch roles from time to time. And a lot of times on some smaller scenes, the mixer will boom with the boomer so that there's two booms. Especially if the camera is like breaking 90 degree rule, which isn't a rule because they break it all the time. But yeah, when they do that, then the mixers here are quite happy to get up and just hit record or use the app or something. And just, the on-set mix, it doesn't have to be perfect. They're more worried about getting it good for post. And I kind of like that way of working. I've kind of changed my style, I would say, since I've worked here, where I also now don't mind, I'll put the harness on and rather get two nice constant boom sound going instead of having that, sometimes if it's a big scene, even if you know the dialogue, you can also only, tick-tock between talent that fast without ruining it or getting swishes and stuff as well going too fast. So it's nicer when you have two booms going. Or, on the tighter stuff, if they don't have budget, if they can't afford a utility or a second boom or something to come help out with another boom, then we're happy to kind of both boom, and that's fine. It's not all the time, but a lot of the time they'll do that. And that's kind of something I like about the Danes. It's not so, how would you call it? The hierarchy isn't so strong. The mixer just sits there and mixes in some places like in South Africa. No offense to it all, but it does happen that the mixer doesn't. Sometimes it's like a taboo for him to take a boom and try to get some good dialogue. And then it's all left up to the boom singer to kind of just try and juggle it all. And that's when you then start relying a little bit too much sometimes on the microports or the lavs.
All right. Well, what's been your favorite project you've worked on so far?
I will say since I've gotten here, my favorite has been Wisycom. It's called, it translates to White Sands. It's a series coming up. It's in post right now. We just finished it at the end of last year. And it's a crimi story, just like every other Scandinavian series. It's just about crimi stories. I love crimis. It was really fun. I think we recorded on a 788T. We had a bit of a vintage rig, I would like to call it, with the Electrosonics Octopack. We used Electrosonics. We used DPAs. Ships for plant mics. I'm not exactly sure what model again, but we used Ships plant mics, and we used the 4017B on the boom, and actually only 7 wireless altogether, running into a little mix pre. That's kind of the setup here. I like using the MM1s normally. That's what I'm kind of used to, having the boomy use the MM1. I think that's a little bit more American kind of standard. MM1 and a 416, and off you go. But here we use the mix pre. Yeah, no offense to anybody, but I don't like using that. You bump the gain all too often. It's constantly changing. You might boom and move, and then you look down, and then you're like, oh wow. I started taping it down, and yeah. Now I just insist on using my MM1. I strap it onto myself, and I tell them, no, it's fine. If they already have Wisycom, then I'll just use one of my senders, and I'll just sync to their signal and say, this is how I like to work. And in the beginning, they were a little bit, you're changing stuff, but they start to get to know me now. Like, okay, I know how I like to work, and I work how I like to work. So,
now, how do you like to communicate with your boom op when you're on set?
That's a little bit lacking on my kit. Actually, I use an old Sony kit that I've made a click into the mic, like a walkie kind of click button to it, and it's quite normal for the boom swinger here to have an iPad mini or iPhone or something that sometimes you have a little wrist strap where you keep the phone up on your wrist. So while you boom, you can keep an eye on the picture. So it helps that you don't need to communicate that much with the boom because he can see the picture, he can see what he's doing all the time. And that really helps. So the communication here, I haven't actually done or worked with anybody here yet that has boom comps. It's not a thing up here. But for me, normally I would just have the little Sony set and just say, get up or get down or whatever. In South Africa, it was a bit more normal to be able to talk to a boom swinger because we don't have that standard of using the picture all the time where the sound gets the Teradek. And the first time I tried that actually was on Liberty in 2017, where I had a picture, strapped to my chest all the time with an iPad mini on top of the MM1. So I really liked that I had a little more control and I could monitor stuff. I could go into the apps, for instance, if we had a Tentacle Sync system, I could have the app. I could also see what's going on. And I think that's where it comes in that the Dane CU more is like a B mixer that's booming. That's why, because you basically have full control on your boom mic, and he's just recording at that side. And some of the guys here, they run it into a mix three or something. So you're recording time code, and you're receiving to your own mixer. You're basically mixing your one mic as the boom singer, and I really like that way of working. I hope that catches on.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I haven't heard that before.
It's cool. I mean, if you think about it, you can. 32-bit float isn't a magic wand or anything, but you can have the boom recorded separately, 32-bit float on a time code. Sometimes things are really thick and fast on set, and if the boom singer needs to go or, jump into a car or something's happened, maybe they've rigged up a car and it's not working, they quickly move over to something else, stuff happens, then actually the boom singer can go ahead and just, record. And maybe it's a no lav kind of setup, or maybe people don't have clothes on, you can't even wire them. So then the boom singer can be independent and just go for it. Yeah.
Have you purchased any new gear lately?
Towards the end of last year, I bought some new IFBs. I got the Sennheiser 1039 tour guide set, actually. And I've got 10 of those and a 10 bank charger, because for commercials, you're going to use a lot of output. Normally it's at least 7 or 8, maybe 10 or so. And I really like them. I just did the SMA conversion on it, and so I can do different antennas on it for if they're in cars or if we do stuff like that. And they're pretty cheap. IFBs can be beaten up on set sometimes, most times. So I use the HD25 headphones because they're nice and serviceable. That's what I love about them. I have a box of some extra cables and pads and, sponges or whatever needed. Yeah, they work pretty good and no issues. So I think I might get more of them at some point moving forward.
Okay. And you say that's the tour guide set? Is that what it's called?
They call it a tour guide set. It's the Sennheiser 1039s. Yeah, that's what they are. And I see more and more guys starting to use them because they're quite cost effective. I used to use Comtex, and now I'm gonna step on some toes here by saying that. But I try to disassociate myself with people that use Comtex from now, because they've burnt me a bit in South Africa before, where if I need to change frequency, then I need to get in there with a little screwdriver and adjust, and it's just. When you're in a hurry, it's just too much of a stress, to try and change the frequency if you have problems. And then you maybe have 10 of them to try and do it real quick. And I like the scanning function. I can scan on the Sennheisers, and I can do infrared sync. So I can scan on my side and just bring all the packs and boom, 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 boom. Out they go again, and everybody's happy. So yeah, I have some Comtex for sale, FYI. They're still lying in my closet in my little B kit.
All right. Well, when you're traveling, how do you like to travel with your gear?
I travel, if I have to fly, I take the mixer on board with me with all the receivers and all the TX. So I actually don't send most of the gear. I don't send, the main stuff I don't send into holding, because I have had a bad experience once. I have taken a boom where because it's a weird shape or long item or whatever, it came on the next flight in. I got it back in time, but it made me break into a cold sweat where I was like, I'm not going to have a boom. And that's pretty damn embarrassing, like, so now I fly with a little, the VDB audio boom, collapses really, really tiny. It's a 3 meter. And I fly with that in the bag, and I fly with the whole bag, the mixer, all the receivers, and then all the transmitters in there with all the wireless and at least one boom and a blimp. And that goes all my backpack, everything. And then I'll rather send the rest of the stuff, all the accessories or a trolley or stuff like that, flight cases that can go under. But I try to keep most of the stuff on me.
Okay. How many flight cases do you usually have?
I have a small Pelican case that I've kind of modified with a bit of woodwork and some aluminium and all that. I've modified it so that it has a platform, so I can actually have it's kind of a mini cart. It's got a holder. I can put my bag on top of it. I actually don't know what the size model of it is. It's a small Peli case, and in there I'll put all the receivers and stuff, and then I'll take the K-tek bag on my shoulder. And normally I've been getting away at airports where I have my backpack and my laptop and all my other personal kind of stuff in there. And then I get my laptop bag is the K-tek bag. And the security haven't given me any hassles for that yet. They just kind of look at me. They always check because, all the transmitters packed next to each other in a bag. I don't know what that looks like on a scanner to them. Yeah. So I travel with all of that and at least one small boom.
All right. Well, out of all the projects, what's been your worst on-set experience you've had?
I'm also a volunteer medic, just to get a little bit sidetracked. I really have a love for first aid and stuff like that. So when we take chances on set in terms of safety, which does happen everywhere, that annoys me. And I'm normally the guy that then starts saying stuff. And I've had some arguments with people, which I wish I didn't have because of that. So that's my worst experiences. And that's happened on a few sets here and there where we maybe do something. And it's because I've had a friend, Carlos, he was killed on set in South Africa, working on a production. A giraffe hit him on the head and he died. And that's why it's such a thing for me. It's just close to home when we take chances with people's life on set. Nobody's life is worth a movie. I don't care if it's a few $100 million budget. It doesn't matter. So that's normally when I will pipe up and I'll say something like, guys, and that's why I've qualified as a safety officer and as a basic life support medic and all that. So I have say. I can tell people. And in Denmark, actually, it's quite normal for the sound guy. I don't actually know why that is, but the sound guy normally gets nominated as being the one to be like the spokesman of the crew in terms of safety. So if somebody feels something on set, the Danes are super PC with all of that, and I like it. Everybody, you can raise your voice and not get scolded too much, for stepping a little bit out of your lane about safety stuff. And you can say like, hey, is this safe? Can we maybe make it better? Can we do it a little differently? Yeah. People stand back a bit more, do something to just try and make it more comfortable for everyone. And normally everybody obliges and that's fine.
Do you have a minor incident you could talk about that maybe could have been prevented?
There's an incident that happened once on Taste and Tricks, actually, at 2 a.m. We were doing night shoots for, I think it was like 2 weeks straight. And I had a little Zoom recorder. Sometimes on set, how I like to work, I've got my main recorder on the sound device and recording stuff. And then I have like a little FX kit on the F8. And in there, I'll set up like some XY stereo stuff or getting some ambience or even hiding mics for footsteps or whatever it is. And I actually there was a B camera on a crane. And this crane had just come up from Cape Town, and quite a new built crane. But something, I don't know what went wrong exactly. It's not for me to know, but something went major. There was a major malfunction on the crane, and it broke. It snapped. It was extended like 3 or 5 meters out, and I just put my kit underneath that crane because it was going to give me a nice stereo perspective from that camera. And I just I remember placing the mixer down on a little camping table. It's like we work a meter, so half a meter or a foot or whatever off the ground. And I turned around and walked away, and it was just the hugest, it sounded like an explosion where that arm just broke and it landed right on top of my sound kit.
Oh.
Thank God it was the Zoom. But it landed right on top. And I think 2 minutes earlier, that would have just hit me straight at the back of the head as I was placing that mic and that bag down. So that's the most close call or most crazy, scary thing I think I've ever seen on set. And the whole crew just, we all just were stunned. We had to stop shooting for a while and just kind of do a damage assessment, what's going on. And yeah, that was close.
Yeah, that sounds scary.
Yeah, it was a bit scary. Luckily, nobody was hurt. The grip guy was crying. It was his personal crane.
Man. Well, what's been the biggest technical challenge you've had on set?
I think my biggest challenge, and it's not to take away, I think we really do good work, but sometimes because of kind of budget constraints, we don't get to work with as much gear. It's not like we have gear enough to just throw it at it. And the rates in South Africa, and I think probably everywhere, is normally just because you have more gear doesn't mean you're going to get paid more. So you use what you have. And that sometimes is what gets challenging, is that you don't have enough, or you don't have that wish list of stuff that you really want, or to kind of get the job done easily. So sometimes you can get it done, but it's going to take some more effort, or maybe you have to ask for extra take on your side or something to kind of get more close, or, it forces you to kind of be able to get good at talking with DOPs and directors, because I think on the really big stuff, I worked on another big show called The Professionals in South Africa. There was like 5 crews shooting all over the world at some point or something. So there, a lot of times I had to go, like, let everybody get what they need and stuff, and then go and ask the director, like, hey, can I get another take? Because I want to get my boom in there. I'm not happy to just do everything on lavs the whole show. And so then you have to be very politically correct, and you have to be polite and really good at motivating why you're doing what you're doing, or asking what you're asking. And obviously, if it's something that's able to be taken up in post, you also have to kind of remember, as a location guy, on tighter budgets, like, what is post budget again? Am I really going to be stretching them, or can I actually be kind of seen as the post production representative on set? It's very rare that we have an editor or someone hanging around set that'll say, yeah, I can do that, or I need a shot of this so that I can, get into that easier in the cut. So that I've unofficially taken that as my responsibility and say, hey, maybe we can do and now we're really going into suggesting stuff. And it's always just a suggestion, use it, don't use it. A lot of times when they use it, I'll get a mail saying, thanks, wow, that really helped, or that saved my ass, or that just saved us 200K or whatever it was to, overall to cut the ADR down a little bit. And I like onset sound. I don't particularly like when stuff are dubbed too much, or you can kind of start picking it up on a show where the whole damn show has just been dubbed and you kind of feel like, well, why was I there? I'm there for the dialogue mainly. So that's what I try and get. And if I don't get it, I'll try push for it. Not enough to annoy people, and I'll obviously choose my battles, but I always try and push to get the best sound. And maybe on the day it's stressful and people don't want it or whatever, but later on they always say, yeah, that really helped. That saved us. And I think once you get that reputation of someone that really, makes the work lighter and kind of helps out in post-production, because that's when you're really stressing. That's when the money's been spent. That's when now it costs so much more to get people back in studio, and so much more man hours and stuff to try and fix that or make it work. And a lot of time that money is just not there. So you have to have a sound guy that don't just sit and be quiet and just do as you're told kind of thing. I think it's important to be a part of the team. I always tell the DOP in pre-production, like, I always joke with them just to try to break the ice and say, hey, thank you for getting the picture for my sound. And normally that's the icebreaker, but I always try and remind them, hey, look, I'm just trying to get the sound for the picture that you're creating. I'm just trying to add to what you're doing. That's why I'm here. I'm the other half of your picture, basically. And sometimes you need to remind that, because, I don't know, egos and stuff get involved. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's just about having quality and giving the audience the best experience.
All right. Well, if you could offer any advice for someone just starting out, in the sound department, what would you tell them?
I've been lucky enough that I'm very young, sound guy still, but I've been lucky enough to mentor 1 or 2 people and get them in. I especially try and help females get into the business, because we're so starved for any female kind of representation today. I like it when people reach out to me and say, "Hey, can I learn from you? What, can I come onto set?" And then I'll normally try and get production to say, "Hey, can I have like a trainee come in?" Most of the jobs I do is 2 people, 2-man team sound, and then I try to get a third person in there. Maybe they can be like an internship or get a small rate, and sometimes I'll break away and do something else, and that'll be part of my motivation. Is like, hey, but it's kind of like a runner, and they'll just be falling in with sound department like 70, 80% of the time, and then teach them what I know and carry that knowledge over, because I've been in the deep end and started from scratch. I did a show called Madiba with Mandela. I think it was out of Africa on the production side, and it was with Ivan Mulborough, very well known South African mixer. I look up to him very much. I think he was the guy that kind of, early on kind of took me under his wing and said, "Hey man, let me show you how it's done," and get me onto some B unit jobs, and kind of keep an eye on me, and slowly but surely grow up. And now he's calling me to come do big shows in South Africa. So that was a good relationship to have built, and I tried to give people that again as well. Try to give back in a way that what for someone took me in their wing and said, come boom for me, baptize me by fire, kind of thing. Show me how it is. Definitely, I think a lot of people, especially coming from South Africa, not everybody can afford an education. And if I have to think back on I studied film and I majored in sound design, and we didn't really learn a lot about the onset sound. We learned how to deal with it afterwards, and that's when you have a really rounded person, is when, if you have, like I can see it here in Denmark, for instance, you get some people that just do post, and maybe they step out once or twice a year to go do location stuff, and they're just not as good as people that do location all the time. Because there is a way where you start catching a rhythm and you have a way of working, and a little bit of tricks, especially with hiding mics. That's something that I've really learned. It's not just about the boom all the time, because you just can't do it all the time, especially with modern techniques of filming. You have to learn how to hide mics and which mics to hide, how to hide them, maybe put them in props, maybe have, think of the scenes a little bit more in terms of art department and collaborate with them, see what can we make for props, like the old saying, like a plant mic. What is that? It's a mic that gets hidden in a plant, like in the restaurant kind of setups. But I've built stuff like in cans, for instance, or in rocks, out in the bush, and or a tree stump that it can be moved around. It's actually a microphone that can be placed in scene and stuff, and that's kind of cool. I like doing that, where you're kind of combining departments so that we can achieve what the sound needs, and that's cool. That's fun. So I would like to teach people that more, thinking outside of the box in terms of getting the sound.
All right. Well, Byron, as we kind of start to wrap things up, do you have any final words of wisdom you could share with anyone, or are there any final projects you've worked on that you like to talk about?
I can try to tell people out there, if they want to get into sound, is to not give up. It can be tough getting in there. It's not just about knowing sound people. It's about building a relationship with line producers, production coordinators. At the end of the day, those are the people that actually confirm the booking. And having DOPs on your side, for instance, where they know the way you work, and they know that maybe they start picking up that, hey, you're really trying to, complete their picture for them. There's no use in them maybe filming all these beautiful shots and stuff, and maybe the budget isn't big enough in post to be able to cover all of that stuff. So maybe you kind of ask for, hey, do you mind? And you kind of do it a little bit on the side, and you do it, talk to camera guys, say, hey guys, maybe you want to go on a tighter lens, so I can just grab that dialogue, maybe one take, and it's just one take normally. And I've got a bit of a trick where I build a really good relationship with the actors as the boom swinger, and the mixers that I normally boom for love me for that, because I'll make a really good reputation with the actors. I get to mic them up and, be in their space and crack a joke or two, and they like it. But sometimes quite early on, I just tell them, hey, I've got your back in terms of having to go do ADRing. Most actors don't really love it. Some probably do, but most of them deep down, they don't think it's the most fun. So sometimes we'll say to them, like on the recently, actually, I only really started doing that, and it depends. You have to feel it out if you can or can't. get in there and do something like that. But you can ask sometimes, say, hey, maybe you can ask for something. Because a lot of times when a sound guy will ask, they'll just move on. But if the actor asks, or if one of the focus pullers says, I need another one, then they'll always do it. And you have to kind of see where can you, obviously choose it right. Don't do it all the time, because people are going to catch you out, and then you won't get to do that anymore. But people really like that. And I feel like that's also why I like to have a lot of IFB outputs. It's on the smaller stuff, on the regular stuff, TV, whatever. It's just the director. I don't know how it is in the States, actually. I think you guys probably use way more outputs than we do. But normally we have 4 or 5 outputs. I like to have double that. I like to have 10. So I like whoever is sitting behind the monitor. If it's a wardrobe person, I offer them headphones. If a lighting guy is busy, or I did a commercial the other day where we were filming and the lighting was outside packing his lighting truck, and I could hear it. And I was telling them, and they kept doing it. So the second time I wanted to go to him, I didn't go with the attitude or anything. I just said, hey man, do you mind wearing these headphones for one take? And most of the time they'll say, yeah, sure, I'll try it. Kind of convince them. And young guy comes up to you on set, the sound guy, and says, yeah, wear this and just see what I have to deal with. Almost all the time they'll come back and be like, wow, you really hear everything. And there's so many people that I've given headphones on set that have never tried that. They've been in the industry longer than I have, and they've never been offered a set of headphones while watching the picture, like a makeup person or a wardrobe person, for instance. And if you can offer them headphones, then you're letting them into that world, and they're starting to see and hear the other half of the picture. Now they're watching the picture, and they're getting the dialogue, and they start feeling the emotion of the scene. And afterwards, I've never given headphones to someone that hasn't said thank you. So, and when I work with them, they ask, hey, do you have an extra pair of cans? And maybe they'll wear it once or twice and put it down and forget about it again. But I think that's been my secret, kind of, to letting people accept me a little bit more and see that I've got a passion for what I'm doing, is to let them into my world and say, hey, we're not just like the gear geeks or nerds that come on to set and we're in our own little bubble on the side and just kind of like kids in the 50s, where you're just like seen and not heard kind of thing. We're sound, we should be heard, and we should be part of the picture. And I think, luckily here in Denmark, I think it's been, people are pretty open to that. They'll take that headphone and listen to it. And yeah, that's my best advice. If someone is giving you issues on set, or it's really noisy, or you can't deal with something, offer someone some headphones. Take that spare cans, let them hear a scene or a take, and just tell them, hey man, just listen to one take and see. Our equipment's super sensitive and we pick up everything. So that's the best advice I can give. Just let people into the sound. Don't just be on the side or a fly on the wall kind of sound guy. Let them in. And your life's going to get easier on set, I promise you.
Yeah, no, that's great, because sometimes people, oh really? Yeah, I can. Oh yeah, what is that noise I'm hearing? Like, well, that's what we've been trying to deal with all this time. So
yeah, exactly. Or footsteps in the background, or they talk. It's like, can you hear that?
Yes.
If anything you can hear, I can hear better, kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, if people wanted to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Most people, funny enough, the last while have been reaching on social media, like Instagram. I've been getting work through Instagram recently. So people are welcome to check me out. It's Byron_Wavemaker, like as in WAV, not wave. The Byron Wavemaker. They can find me there and see what I get up to from time to time. I post often enough. Otherwise, they can email me at byrontelevision@gmail.com. They'll find me. I've just been, as I say, I'm pretty new here in Denmark. I'm getting a website up and running soon, and registering a company and stuff like that, so I can have everything running smoothly in terms of bills and tax and stuff like that. So yeah, soon enough, there will be some more information out there about me. But for now, the best way to do it and the easiest way is reach out on Instagram or my email.
Okay, well, I want to say thanks to Byron Meyer for being on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me. It was fun.
Thanks for listening. If you're looking for more audio-related podcasts, here's what some of our friends in the podcasting community have in store for you.
Hi, this is Christian from the Sound Effect Podcast. In our latest episode, you'll hear supervising sound editor Koya Elliott of Skywalker Sound and re-recording mixer, sound designer, and supervising sound editor Ren Kleiss talk about their work on the latest Pixar animated feature, Soul. Hear it all at asoundeffect.com/podcast.